Sai Ram. Welcome back to Chapter 6 Indian Language and Literature. In the earlier sections, we delved upon the religious literatures available in Sanskrit. In this section, we will be discussing in detail other Sanskrit literatures that do not touch upon Sanatana Dharma or any of its offshoot religions. There is a large body of Sanskrit works coming under science, law, grammar, medicine, various Dharma Sutras, and Smritis. All these can be broadly classified as Dharma Shastras. When were these Dharma Shastras compiled? They were compiled between 500 and 200 centuries before Common Era. That is, they took form, they evolved during this interim 3 centuries. What guidelines do Dharma Sutras contain? Dharma Sutras contain stipulations in the matters of the duties of all 4 classes of people, responsibilities of kings and officials, rules regarding property dealings and punishment for criminal and civil offences. Talking about Smritis, let us now take the example of one such Smriti, which is Manusmriti. What does it contain? It recommends the roles of man and woman in society, ideal code of conduct, and their relationship with each other. Various kings and emperors patronized these scholars, these Sanskrit scholars. Like, for example, the Mauryan period saw Kautilya's Arthashastra. It is one such valuable treatise reflecting the state of affairs of the society, economy, and ancient Indian politics. Likewise, the Gupta and Harsha period saw works of Kalidasa, Shudraka, Bhasa, Bhanabhatta. They also showcase the cultural life of northern and central India. Many grammar works were also developed based on Panini and Patanjali's grammar works. The Gupta period could very well be termed as the golden period for Sanskrit literature. The Gupta kings patronized the classical Sanskrit literature. They helped the scholars and poets of Sanskrit and nurtured the language. The Sanskrit language assumed the status of the language of the educated lot. Many great poets, dramatists, and scholars appeared during this period, and Sanskrit literature reached great heights. Now let us see some of the famous Sanskrit authors and their works. The first author that comes to our mind is Mahakavi Kalidasa. But before that, it's worth mentioning about Bhasa. Bhasa is one of the earliest Indian playwrights. His time period was estimated between the 2nd century before Common Era and 2nd century Common Era. He has written 13 plays, echoing the lifestyle of the era along with its prevalent beliefs, traditions, and culture. Even the great Mahakavi Kalidasa pays tribute to Bhasa in the first line of his very first play, the Malavikagnimitram. Bhasa is considered the father of Indian drama. The next, of course, is our favorite Mahakavi Kalidasa. Kalidasa wrote many beautiful poems and plays. His works are considered the gems of literature. His wonderful skill is exhibited in his poems. Some of the poems are Meghaduta, Ritu Samhara, Kumara Sambhavam, and Raghuvamsha. His plays, or some of his famous plays, are Abhignana Shakuntalam, Vikramorvashi, and, as we said earlier, Malavikagnimitram. The next one in this line is Vishakadatta. He was another great poet, playwright, and he also belongs to the Gupta period. He wrote two great historical plays, Mudra Rakshas and Devi Chandraguptam. This Devi Chandraguptam is lost and only a few references to this are available. And they are also in the form of quotations, and that those quotations were also used by other authors in their literary works. Yet another great scholar who has great reverence for Bhasa. His name is Shudraka. He calls himself Shudraka. We really don't know his actual name. The Shudraka wrote an exciting play. It is called Mrichakatikam. There's a lot of translation available for this Mrichakatikam. It's a very interesting and exciting play. Mrichakatikam translates as the little clay cart. It's a great source of information about the socio-cultural economic conditions of that time. The first four acts of this play are basically literally taken from Bhasa's incomplete work, which is called Charudattam. Incidentally, in this little clay pot, this Mrichakatikam, also the same Charudatta character occurs without even change of name. It is said that Shudraka finished Bhasa's unfinished work, calling himself a servant. That's why the word Shudraka, calling himself the servant of Bhasa, out of deep respect and reverence for Bhasa. Harisena is yet another greatest poet, playwright, panegyrist of the Gupta period, and he lived in the 4th century Common Era. He was a foreign minister and general in the court of the emperor. The emperor's name is Samudragupta. His most famous poem, a Prashasti, admiring the valor of his king Samudragupta, they are all inscribed. Even today, the inscriptions are available on Allahabad pillars. Now let's go through the other famous authors and their works. Ashwagosha's Buddha Charitra, it's a biography of Buddha, and his Soundarananda, it's a fine Sanskrit poetry. These scholars and Sanskrit authors were patronized by many Kushana kings as well. And Charaka wrote Charaka Samhita. Obviously, you all know Charaka Samhita is a book on medicine. And Shushrita, the very familiar name in surgery, Shushrita Samhita is his work. And Madhava wrote Madhava Nidhanam. It's a book on pathology. And yet another famous author, Varahamihira, he wrote Brihad Samhita. Brihad Samhita is a work on astronomy. Yet another work on astronomy, it's a very famous name. You all should know the very word astronomy should bring into your mind Aryabhatta. The famous Aryabhattiya was written by Aryabhatta. Another astrological work by Lagadacharya by name Vedanga Jyotisha. These are some of the famous authors and their works. Now let's move further down to the post-medieval period, which is between the 14th and 18th century Common Era. This post-medieval period, this period between the 14th and the 18th century Common Era, saw a tremendous rise of Sanskrit literature in Kashmir. Somadeva's Kathasarit Sagar and Kalhan's Rajatarangini are of historical importance. And these literature provide vivid history about the kings of Kashmir. The Gita Govindam of Jayadev is yet another fine poetry. And besides literature in this period, other very numerous works on different aspects like art, architecture, sculpture, iconography, and many other related fields all came about. So we end the session on other Sanskrit literature, offering gratitude to these great empires, those kings who patronized these scholars and allowed the language to nurture. And today we have a very wonderful language called Sanskrit. And let us benefit by going through all these literatures and let us continue imparting this knowledge to our friends. See you again. Sai Ram.